Hey everyone, I hope you had a great day. In this video we are looking at some new r/I-don't-work-here-lady stories. I hope you enjoy them. The first story is called Accidentally Included in Email Conversations. Last year I started receiving emails from a building owner and property manager for some building in the UK. I am in Australia. It soon became apparent that they were under the impression that I was a business partner. I tried to make it clear that they had the wrong email, but they just laughed it off for ages. I was not really a fan of the approach that they took to hiring and paying cleaning staff. Particularly when one of the staff had some family emergency that interfered with her work, and they just called her a time waster. So I decided to mess with them until they got the point. The property manager was CC'd on all of these emails. When the property manager said the cleaner would work for £15 per clean, I said we should pay 20 instead. When the owner said no, I responded with the following. I just thought after the conversation that we had over a couple of tinnies last weekend that we agreed we no longer wanted to support a capitalistic economy that entrenches the working poor. Let's actually start paying people living wages so that they can enjoy the pleasantries of life instead of wondering if they can make rent. That's what you said, wasn't it? I guess you weren't really serious about overthrowing the capitalist state. When he ordered a sign for the bin store, I responded with this. Can we also arrange a sign for the back of the door at the main entrance, encouraging people to have a really lovely day? Maybe another one in the bin store, telling them to follow their dreams. And can we install signs over the phone socket in each flat, asking them when they called their mom last? What do you think? And finally, when he called the cleaner a time waster for having the audacity to have a family, I responded with this. Time wasters are just the worst. Which is why we have decided to let you go. You have been filling our inboxes with drivel for months, and we are sick of it. Please clear out your desk by the end of the day. There were a couple more emails back and forth, where he actually said that if I didn't want to be included in emails, then there were better ways of saying it. I haven't heard from him since then, but I don't know if that's because he worked out I was not the person he thought I was, or because he thought his business partner no longer wanted to be CC'd. The next story is called She Thinks I Work Everywhere. I live in a fairly big city, so it's kind of unfortunate that I keep bumping into this woman who I have to say I'm not too fond of. I work in a gift/curiosity shop, pink candles and tarot cards and fancy overpriced bars of soap in an older, affluent neighborhood of my city. This one customer comes into the gift shop quite regularly and always has a million questions. She is the kind of customer that no matter how busy you are, demands all of your attention to be on her. Now, our shop is fairly small, so literally everywhere you turn, there's this woman. Fine, whatever. She's kind of rude, but manageable, and she always spends a decent amount of money. Now, it's important to note that this customer has a small dog. We'll call this dog Pickles. That is the cutest dog. The second she enters the store, she drops Pickles' leash and goes about her business, leaving Pickles to do whatever Pickles' little heart desires. Sometimes it's just to come and sit next to me and get pets. Sometimes it's not. Again, it's not a big store. It doesn't really matter. Pickles can't really go into much trouble, and I like the dog. Flash forward to the main part of the story. One day, I'm shopping at a well-known clothing store, the kind with levels and elevators, a real unit of a clothing store, clear across the city. While I'm looking at some sweaters, I feel a cold little nose pressed up against my leg. And when I look down, guess who I see? You betcha, it was Pickles, tail wagging, leash trailing behind them. The woman was nowhere to be seen. I think to myself, I know this dog. I don't really want to bump into this woman. I'm certain she will recognize me. We have interacted multiple times at this point. But Pickles is old, and this was a big store, so I scooped the dog up and set off to find her. After too much searching, it turns out that she was on a completely other level than we were. Meaning, either this old Springer Spaniel somehow went up 2 escalators by herself, or this woman straight up does not give a hoot and left her dog on a random floor of a clothing store. Who does that? I tried to say a friendly hello to her, something along the lines of, "Hey, I was shopping and I recognized your dog." But before I could even remind her where she knew me from and that it's not weird that I brought her dog, she hit me with, "Do you have this shirt in another size? I hate this color. Why don't you have many different styles of this pant?" I was so taken back by what I can only describe as the audacity of this idiot that I could only muster a polite, "I actually don't work here. I work at another store." To which she responded, "Well, can you go ask somebody for a different size?" I was more than happy to say no. The third story is called "Don't Care That I Don't Work Here." This just happened yesterday. I used to work at a partner company of a phone retailer. I quit for reasons I won't go into. I was going into the store to return the key. As I was leaving, a lady grabbed my arm tightly. As I said, this is mid-2020. I immediately recognized her as a regular who's always having issues with her phone. Or rather, doesn't have a brain cell to learn how to use it. I yanked my arm away, grumbling a bit, preparing for the abuse I knew came with helping her. "Aren't you going to help me?" She shrieked, her voice shrill, nails on a chalkboard. I scoffed. "Help you? Why would I?" She snapped. "Because you work here." "No, I don't. I used to, but I quit last week." "I don't care. You're here. Help me." I sighed and thought for a second, then got a devilish smirk. "Fine, but since I don't work here, I'll have to charge my freelance fees." She got a look on her face as if I just told her the grass was always pink. "Freelance fees?" "Yep. When I'm not on the clock, I charge $40 per hour, minimum of 2 hours. I knew she wouldn't go for it. As expected, she started screaming and berating me. I didn't have time for her, so I just walked out the door and continued my day with a bit of a smile on my face. The last story is called "Drunk Lady Creates Her Own Trouble." The area I grew up in was a very sparsely populated cattle ranching country. Often with more than a mile between houses and dozens of miles between anything that might even superficially resemble a town. This story takes place well before the era of cell phones. The remoteness of the area meant that if anyone should have car trouble, they would be forced to go to the nearest ranch house for help. Keep in mind, these were ranches that ran cattle, not businesses open to the public. But people were friendly and would invariably go out of their way to help anyone who was reasonable and polite. Unfortunately, not everyone qualifies for that description. Late one night, when I was about 15, my family was awoken by the sound of a car horn extremely close to the house. We got up and stumbled outside to see what was happening. We were greeted by the sight of a trashy car right at our back door. Given the layout of the yard, this should have been damn near impossible. An older lady staggered out of the car, drunk as could be. She began to yell at us about our terrible service. My dad tried to calm her down enough for her to explain what she was going on about. It seems that she was driving along, realized that she was running low on fuel and needed to find a gas station. In a miracle of miracles, this gem of humanity saw the lights of our property from the highway and made her way down our long driveway towards us. And, saints be praised, there were tanks of fuel all about the garage and shops. In her drunken stupor, she somehow looked at an assortment of ordinary ranch buildings and thought, "Ah, yes, gas station." She went to several of the pumps and tanks, but was flummoxed to discover that they were all either locked or wouldn't turn on, because gas theft is a thing. Enraged, she went in search of the office so she could scream at the manager for this terrible service. But rather than simply stagger around on her own 2 feet until she found that office, she chose to drive around. Finally, she found the back door of our house, assumed she had hit the jackpot, and started in on the horn. No matter how many times we told her that we were not a gas station and did not sell gas, she continued to yell and scream incoherently at us that we were. Ever tried to reason with a raging drunk? My father instructed me to call the sheriff, while he stalled for time. Knowing the drill from the TV, I took note of the car make and model and license plate and relayed that when I called. The dispatcher ran the number and told me my information couldn't possibly be right. I went back out to verify and came back to tell dispatch that I was correct. Oh boy, it turned out that our lady had switched plates on the car, and this really fired up dispatch. I got the impression there were links to other offenses. I was right. Dispatch told me that they were sending a deputy immediately and he would be out to our place in about 25 minutes. I discreetly relayed this to my dad, who proceeded to put on a masterclass in time wasting. After about 10 minutes, however, the drunk woman was frustrated and wanted to drive out. My dad didn't like the idea of this lunatic doing any more driving around our breakable stuff. So he got behind the wheel and, slow as can be imagined, steered the old Jeep through the hazards of the yard and back out to the driveway. See, her initial entry into the yard was fraught with peril. Looking at her tire tracks, we saw that she just came inches from hitting the house. Twice. And she miraculously missed plowing into our wellhead by what could only have been millimeters. Any of those impacts would have been ridiculously expensive to fix. And as it turned out, this old broad didn't have insurance. Talk about dodging the bullet. The old dear was screeching endlessly about still needing gas. So my dad pulled in front of one of the pumps and pretended to pump gas in the slowest way possible. I was still on the phone with dispatch, running outside for stuff like getting a better description of her and then coming back to report. Finally, dispatch said the officer was just about to our place. My dad and I were pretty mad at this point. If the officer arrived while she was still on our private property, there likely wasn't much for him to do other than escort her off. But if they were to catch her on the highway driving drunk? Our highway was so deserted that one could sit by for an hour or more and not see anyone on it. And there was literally nothing for her to hit near the road, even if she careened off at 100 miles an hour. The only person she was likely to hurt from heading out again was herself. So my dad told her he had filled her up at no charge, he hadn't given her a drop of fuel, and sent her on her way. I told dispatch which way she went, and in under 2 minutes the deputy had pulled her over. Our involvement in the case stopped there. But between the court notices in the paper and the small town gossip wire, we found out that the lady got into a mess of trouble. In addition to the drunk driving charge, which stuck, and not having insurance, and the license plate thing, she was wanted for a number of previous offenses. The whole thing snowballed into one big pile. Thanks for watching the video to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe, and if you have time, watch another of my videos. And now, I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.